What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Around the A Sports Podcast, home of the 2-2 Atlanta Falcons. First episode on the new format where we realized, guys, our shows were too long. They were. We weren't consistent enough to do them every other week and give you guys 2.5-hour shows. I know you were tired of us blabbering on at some point. So Micah and I were in the laboratory during this month of September, as the Falcons went on and did their thing this month. The Braves are getting ready to start their playoffs. No Braves this episode, though, as you can see by the gear that Micah and I have on this evening for you guys, recording this on the evening of October 2nd. This episode should be up within a couple hours of me talking right this second. So no more of this, nonchalant cutting, 2.5-hour shows, boring you guys all out. Micah and I are going to be here every Monday or Tuesday, along with Dylan and Connor as well. Monday or Tuesday, recapping the Falcons and as well with the Yellow Jackets and the Georgia Bulldogs. And then Thursday or Friday, you'll see Hawks shows, along with the Brave shows. And in those shows, we'll make sure we cover the Atlanta Dream. We'll make sure that we get to, anything else that goes on along with Atlanta sports, whether that's the United, whether that's, new NHL team recruiting, and anything of that sort. But we hope you guys enjoy the new format. Please make sure to give us a like, comment, subscribe on any platform you're watching this. We hope to go audio only form soon. I'm guessing that's in the plan at some point, Mr. Neal. But yeah, it's just it's been about a month, and we're sorry that we haven't been here but we do plan on becoming very consistent with this podcast, and we're glad that you guys are working with us. But enough of wasting our time with the intro. Micah, we got a show to get to, right? And
Yes,
we got to
sir.
talk about these Atlanta Falcons, man. Last time we talked to the guys, as in our viewers, the gals too, was before week 1 against the Panthers. And what we said about how the season would start was pretty accurate. We thought we'd come out, look great, get over 500, which we did. And spirits were high. We had a big fourth quarter comeback against the Packers where Dez really didn't look that bad down the stretch. And we're like, holy crap, because I personally had us losing the Packers game. I don't know if you did too. But us going 2-0 was like, shoot, the Falcons might not ever lose a football game again. All jokes aside, we went through pretty much our hardest part of the schedule for the season in the month of September. We took care of business at home. We are sitting here at 2-2, just like we were last year, but this is a completely different scenario. Yesterday it wasn't great seeing Desmond Ridder throw a pick six to Mr. Potato Head and Buzz Lightyear on the Toy Story telecast. I know some people must have to that news, but yeah, that'll be me in 2 weeks if the Braves losing the Marlins to the playoffs. Either way, where's your current thought processes? With the Falcons sitting at 2-2, coming off this first defeat in the 21st century against the Jacksonville Jaguars over in London, isn't it?
Well, like you said, this we're 2-2, over 500 for the first time since 2017. That team that had Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, the team that just came off the Super Bowl game. Um, like we've been so accustomed to losing seasons the past since after 2017, and like now that we're sitting here at 2-2, 4 weeks into the season, I truly can't complain. Is there things that like I'm not enjoying watching, or is there things that I wish were different? Yes, but at this point of the season, we're 2-2 in week 4. I can't complain given what we've seen the previous years.
To compare this season to 2018 and on, right? Because 2018 was when the 5 years of losing record, not just losing season, never being over 500. I'm not being 1-0, 4-3, any of that. With 2018, I feel like was the only season that there was some sort of standard. Where 2016 they lost in the Super Bowl. 2017 they brought some pieces back, but it was the first year for Sark. And it looks like the team was still going to be good going into 2018. It was like one of the last years where like, okay, if you're going to win it, it has to be now. The Super Bowl is in your home stadium. Like, let's go. And that was the year everybody got hurt. Matt Bryant got hurt. Matt Bosher got hurt. Tevin Coleman got hurt. Keanu Neal got hurt. Everybody and their mother got hurt that year. And so that was truly, I think, the last year we had expectations. And we still won 7 games that year somehow. You come into 2019, just the team was already so depleted. They start out 1-7. Dan Quinn should have been fired on the spot, and the team somehow rallies to win 6 of 8, saves his job, and really screwed us. Thomas Dimitrov as well. Screwed us over for the next 2 years because 2020 we bought back into the Brotherhood and 6 of 8, 0-5 start. Season was punted. The 1 year we truly tanked. Ended up taking a tight end at number 4. So bad, right? And yeah, now the last 2 years with Arthur Smith, we've had 3-win expectations, pretty much 3-win rosters, and we find a way to go 7-10 in each of them with completely different ones. Matt Ryan 1 year, Marcus Mariota the other. But yeah, here we are, and finally we're like in this mode. We're ready to compete. I think part of it is the division is so bad, the conference is so bad. Like if we were in the AFC right now, we would be looking at this roster saying, "No way, we're going to be good
Yeah.
this year. No way." But after 5 years, you're willing to do it, and I think that's where we are. And it's been a tough 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks ago, we were riding high on our horse, saying,
Hmm.
oh, we're coming. The Saints were 2-0, the Bucks were 2-0. We're like, you know what, the division might not be so bad. We're playing some good company out here. We beat the Packers. We beat the Panthers by 2 touchdowns. The Saints lost to the Packers. They beat the Panthers by a field goal. We were riding high on everybody. And then the Falcons will slap you in the face with a sense of reality like they always do. And it's not been great the last 2 weeks, but they have been two rough road games. And I personally had us losing the Packers game and winning the Jaguars game preseason. And, for those that saw the show, But I think you and I both had us 2-2 at this point going into week 5. So, with your preseason predictions in mind, where is your true mind state with the current process of the team?
I mean, like I said, 2-2 is not something I'm going to complain about. Given what we've seen in previous years. Like you said, if we was in the AFC, this would I don't think we'd be at 2-2 right now. We've got we're blessed with a easier schedule this year. We're in a easier division this year, and we have so many games that are winnable for us, and we just have to go out there and play. And there's like we're gonna get into later in the show. There's factors and players that's have that we don't think has been playing their best. Players that's been playing good, and um their teammates ain't picking them up. And it's like if we could get this team playing at their best form, the Falcons will be number one in the NFC South, and we will be a playoff team come the end of the season, come January.
Let's talk about the most, non-shocking news of all time. The Falcons restructured Jake Matthews for like the 5th time in 5 months, it seems. Pretty much, giving us a little bit more money to, I guess, I know you'll bring up one topic, but I think one that others have thought about. This is similar to what the Dimitrov regime has done. Year 4 for AJ Terrell. He deserves his money. He's come back and has looked phenomenal. Did have a bad play on Sunday against Calvin Ridley, of course. The first touchdown against us is Calvin Ridley. Wow. Like the script writers and the parlay. Oh, I'm sorry, I went too far with the parlay. We're up there dicing, up in the DraftKings NFL quarters. And but I do hope that AJ Terrell does get his bag, and I wonder if freeing up this money does that. But Micah, take us into what you were talking about with all the different paths the Falcons can use these almost $10 million now that we have saved up for anything. What are the options?
Well, lately we've seen a lot of names thrown around for possible trades. I've seen Kirk Cousins, I've seen Justin Fields, I've seen Danielle Hunter, and digging a little deeper in that with going into Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a free agent next year. Is he a player that I would like on his team? Absolutely. I would love to have Kirk on his team. Kirk will make this team go way higher than what this team has been so
You're
far.
you're not going to win a Super Bowl with
Um,
Kirk. You're not.
Not a
But
Super
you
Bowl,
can
but
you can stabilize a lot of things with Kirk Cousins, which I would take.
yes, absolutely. And then going to Justin Fields, he has a option in 2025, and he's unrestricted in 2026. He's an option, but given his play the past since he's been in the league, I don't see that as something the Falcons need to go into with how they're already using Desmond Ritter as a project and trying to build him up. I don't think we need to try to do that with another quarterback. If we're going to go out and trade for a quarterback, we want a quarterback that's already proven and ready to play now and doesn't have to develop under and develop and learn under a new coach. We need a quarterback that's going to come in and be ready to play. And the last one, Daniil Hunter, he's also a free agent next year. Um, he's someone that will absolutely help our defensive line. He's a great defender. He's great at getting to the quarterback and but like I said, he's a free agent next year. So
He'd be a rental.
um yeah. So I don't think it'd be smart for us to give up an asset for him to leave the next year. Like unless they go out for a trade and then they end up extending him. But he's also getting up there in age, as well as Cousins. So like I said, that restructure could be Burrow's extension coming this summer. And this hasn't been a player that I've seen thrown out there, but before the show, Blake and I was talking, and he brought up a player that would come in and make this team better, and Kyler Murray. Um, Tell us a little bit about him, Blake.
So this would not be a this season thing. This would
Hmm.
not be, Kyler. It would make most sense for the Cardinals and for Kyler Murray to basically sit out this season. Josh Dobbs has not looked bad in the couple of games under center there. The Tennessee legend Joshua Dobbs. Um, but this is something I think we even checked in on the Cardinals for D Hop and for Kyler last offseason, more of like a doing your own due diligence thing. I don't think it was ever something that was truly going to come to fruition. Because we just talked about it off camera. Like the Falcons had Lamar Jackson in their view this offseason. The one that's just passed, and it was an idea for us to go get Lamar, but it never made enough sense. We'd just gotten under the cap hell that Thomas Dimitroff had this team in for a while, and we had a chance to go get quantity over quality. Added 9 or 10 new players to the team, which some of those new additions they are being felt in this team so far, regardless of record. You're seeing Calais Campbell make an impact. You're seeing Caden Ellis make an impact. You're seeing Jesse Bates make a huge impact. Matt Collins has had a couple big catches. You're seeing these things. I don't disagree with the moves they made this offseason, and I was willing to give Ritter a chance. And I said if he's as bad as people say he's going to be, Heineke's right there. And Heineke can get you through a season. And I think we're in a better spot to go get a quarterback the next offseason, whether that is with still high draft capital, whether that is trading up for a guy, because there are, I think, more mid-first round quarterbacks available in this class than there was last, like Quinn Ewers, like Michael Penix, etc. But for the Kyler Murray case in general, you see that Arthur likes the mobile quarterback. And Kyler, at his best, when he's healthy, is I don't know if he's a top 10 quarterback, but he's a playoff caliber quarterback. And you say that his work ethic has kind of gone down a year or two. You talked about it with me off camera before the show. One thing he has going for him is he'd have a new, fresh set of scenery, and he would have weapons. He was throwing to an old Larry Fitzgerald and Zach Ertz. He had D-Hop for what, a season and a half? I think he would do really well here if we get him healthy, because you talk about the contract, right? One of the biggest turnoffs is, the contract's huge. It'd be a thing this offseason. So 2 of the years on his extension would already be off. You'd be getting
Hmm.
him back fully healthy, maybe the preseason, a little bit of careful, making sure he gets set with the playbook more than just making sure he re-aggravates anything. But my point is, like, the Cardinals are probably going to end up getting the number 1 pick, number 1, number 2 overall pick. They're going to end up getting Caleb Williams or Drake May. And in them getting those guys, there's a spot for Kyler to be traded. And again, as of this point, this is post-draft we're talking about. We're talking about next summer. The Falcons are in a much better spot. He'll be healed up, and we'll have our next draft class of guys in. We know Ritter won't be the guy by that point. We know that Heineke is a solid backup, maybe even along with Ritter by that point. That is the offseason. You go out and you move chips to get this guy. He won't be as expensive as he was 2 years ago. 2 years are already off the extension. You're getting him healthy, and it looks like he would fit the Arthur Smith plan. Kyler Murray, I think, is something. We talked about Kirk, too, as like a potential free agent 1 or 2 year thing, but Kyler's a completely different case. If there was a quarterback I'm trading for this offseason, if all the chips fall right, it's post-draft, the guy's healthy, he's cheaper than he was 2 years ago, I am definitely pulling the trigger for Kyler Murray, comparative to what we were saying about Lamar in free agency last offseason.
like you said, he I think what fit under Arthur Smith's regime. Like you said, he 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 is a player that fits under Arthur Smith's regime. He's a player that can pass the ball. He can get the ball down the field. He can run the ball.
Nobody could tell there was multiple cuts there, right? At least I don't think so. What were you saying,
Yeah, I
Micah?
don't think so.
I don't think so.
But
No, professionalism here. What's up, Micah?
yeah, I don't know what they're talking about, but it was no cuts. But yeah,
Kyler Murray, man. Kyler Murray, man. That's what he does to you.
Kyler Murray, yeah, I would like his fit on his team. He's a huge weapon. With his run game, he could get the ball down the field, like we said. And he would be a huge threat in the RPO and play action. And then pairing him up with B. John Robinson, giving him Kyle Pitts, giving him Drake London, uh, like that's going to be a hard offense to stop. And that was something I was envisioning with Desmond Ritter. Um, but his pass game has not lined up with my expectations. Not yet, at least. And like you said, if the chips fall in the right place, I will not be mad about Kyler Murray trade. I will actually push for a Kyler Murray trade.
How much would you push for it? Like, what would it take from your point of view?
I would give up I don't know, let me see. Uh Probably third third yeah, third round pick since he's it will be low. And I give a third round pick for Kyler Murray because he's coming off a huge injury that's most likely going to keep him out for the entire year, and so his exit price should be lower. And given the Cardinals' potential spot in the upcoming draft, um, I don't think they will be opposed to moving on from Kyler Murray and going for somebody younger in the draft, since um, they could, accept a rebuild, and they have a young team with no expectations right now. So at this point, they gave up DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. Just accept the rebuild.
They
And
cut him. They
yep,
didn't even get anything for D Hop either. So it's like, okay, what's the value for Kyler a year from now?
yep. And Kyler is taking up money for them, and if they're not trying to win, cut, cut, cut. Oh my gosh, cut your losses.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh. Yeah.
um, yeah.
I
I
mean,
will not be opposed to a Kyler Murray trade.
this would have to be post draft in your point of view, right? You're not doing this in
Absolutely.
December. You're not doing this at the trade deadline. You're not doing it, you know, after the Super Bowl. You're making sure this is post trade, or excuse
Hmm.
me, post draft day. And if it was post draft day, I can maybe see giving up like a future second because the 2020 in this world, the 2024 draft is already wrapped up. I'd be
Hmm.
willing to give them like a second and a fourth from that 2025 draft if they want a little bit. They probably want one of our young assets. I'm not sure who it would be yet. I'm definitely not giving up a back or London or Pitts, but I'd be willing
Not
to
at
give
all.
up like I'd be willing to part with like a Troy Anderson or
If
like a
they want Desmond
Bergeron.
Ritter, let's
Well,
go
yeah,
ahead.
we'd probably have to give up Ritter or Heineke in the deal. But my guess probably two. I mean, when Antonio Brown was traded from the Steelers, right? He was like
Hmm.
the top of the game, and the Raiders got him for a third and a fifth from like the next draft. So I'm sure quarterback value is a little bit different, and but being at 7 years, I feel like NFL trades are just the value is never what you think, especially someone who's coming off an
Yeah.
injury. Now, for the Cardinals, they do have to find a way to jump the Bears in record because
Hmm.
as of right now, the Bears are sitting pretty. And if the Bears are sitting pretty, there's a good chance that all of a sudden Justin Fields is the one that's moved, and they end up getting Caleb or Drake May. And you talked about it, and we can dive into the Justin Fields conversation a little bit too. As someone who went to Harrison High School, I'm not a Georgia fan by any means. When he was at Georgia, I wasn't like rah, Justin over from any of that. But I'm not a Justin hater by any means. I want him to succeed in the NFL. I think it'd be fun if
Hmm.
the Bears actually had a competent NFL quarterback because they've never had that ever. I just don't think he's that good. I'm not seeing it. This is the third scheme. He looked awful again yesterday. He can run, and for
Who?
fantasy football stats, that's great. He has weapons now. You, what else do you need to see? If we don't see it by the end of this year, what makes you think a Justin Fields trade, especially to our Falcons, would change things?
Um, I don't see the logic behind that one. Like I said, bringing in Justin Fields would be like working on another project, like with what we have with Desmond Ritter. If you want to bring in somebody like Justin Fields, you might as well keep Desmond Ritter at that point. Um, Justin Fields, he has all the potential in the world, but he's been given all the opportunity in the world also, and he hasn't been able to um show that he's rising up to his potential. He's like you said in his third, I believe his third coach, and
Second coach, third system. Second
yeah,
coach,
third
third
system.
OC.
My bad.
Yeah.
And then they went out and got him. They got him Chase Claypool. They traded for
Man,
those receivers
that was a
and
dumb trade, not gonna lie. But yes, they did get him that. DJ Moore is the big one, but yeah.
and he hasn't been able to do much with them. He also has Darnell Mooney who has looked good. And
Cole Clement, they drafted a
yeah,
rookie back. Like
they
the
they
offense is
put
there.
they've put enough around him. But if your quarterback isn't getting the ball to them, if he's not holding on to the ball, if he's continuing to turn the ball over, it's not much for them to be able to do. And I've seen a lot of Bears fans blaming their OC, but you can't blame the OC when your quarterback is the one turning the ball over. The OC doesn't throw the ball. The OC doesn't hand the ball off and fumble. The OC fumble the snap, and those are all problems coming from Justin Fields, and you can't blame the coaching as he's blamed, and that's also another reason I don't want him because his account can't take accountability from that. If
Ohio
you're if
State
you're a
quarterbacks in a
player that's
nutshell, Micah.
if you're a player that's gonna throw your coach out of all people under you on my team, just plain and simple.
I mean, you look at it, right? They had Matt Nagy, and he wasn't a great coach by any means, but he immediately goes back to Andy Reid's coaching tree, and he looks like a guy again. And then they hire a
Hmm.
defensive guy. They hire the old Colts DC that was under Frank Reich, and they look even worse. Like, see, the Bears' issue under Matt Nagy was the offense. Some of it came down to Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles and who was under center. But point blank, they never got the job done. They still had Cole Clement. They had a promising Darnell Mooney at the time. They didn't have former first-round pick Chase Claypool, which basically they traded a first-round pick to get him. They traded the 32nd overall pick because there was no Dolphins pick this year. The Steelers got the first pick in the second round for Chase Claypool, and Chase Claypool looked like he got benched uh, indefinitely in Chicago this
Yeah,
weekend. He's
he
definitely not holding up to all the talk.
he's
But
also throwing his coach under the bus when they asked him,
mm,
do they think coaching is the problem? And that may be a problem in
but she
Chicago
had that
with
issue in
them
Pittsburgh
too
too.
blaming him. But yeah, like
Hmm. He had those
you
same
can't
issues in
blame.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and we look, he's not blocking. He's dropping. He's not, doing what he. You can't blame the coach for something you're not doing.
It's just funny because he made the losing never heard of her tweet, and since then he's like what 8-22 or something in the league. So just the karma is a bitch, Mr. Claypool. But yeah, like under the new regime, since Matt Nagy's gone, like the offense has been there. Yeah, I understand the defense having some issues. Some of them got older. Akeem Hicks, those type of players. You traded Khalil Mack. Eddie Jackson, I think, is still there for the time being, but it makes sense that some of the defenses kind of declined. But you got Khalil Herbert, you got Cole Clement, you got Chase Claypool as a wide receiver 3 is still a very good option as a wide receiver 3 behind Darnell Mooney and DJ Moore. They drafted a rookie tackle to improve the O line, and sure, he's been sacked a lot. That's the reason he has to run. But how many plays come out where he's holding onto the ball for 7 seconds? You could have a great O line. You see Jalen Hurts do it sometimes. He has a great O line, but that ball is out by the 7th second. You saw it in Monday
Mhm.
night last week. Him and Alameda were on the page when the Bucks would be double teaming Goddard. They'd be double teaming Devontae Smith. They'd be double teaming AJ Brown and DeAndre Swift. Our boy Alameda would pop open right before Hurts would get sacked because he would get the ball away before you needed to. There's also been plays where they were guys wide open and Fields throws a pick. Some things that you're seeing from our own third rounder, Desmond Ridder. So point of the conversation is I am much higher on the quarterback train this offseason, especially post-draft, because we'll know at this, by the end of the season that Ritter's not the guy. But I'm much higher on like the Kyler Murray mid-first round option, Kirk Cousins options, than I am on the Justin Fields flashy quarterback that gets cut like Lamar. Like I'm more on the Kyler, Kirk Cousins mid-first round options post-draft than I was last offseason. And any other things you want to talk about regarding the quarterback debacle before we talk about our own?
I believe we on the same. All right, Desmond Ridder, going into week 4, he hasn't, like I said earlier in the show, has not been, his passing game has not been what I was envisioning before this season. He's very much disappointed me. I mean, the first 2 games, like I didn't do much complaining because those were wins, and he enough for us to win. But on the road, in Detroit and London, it just looked like he just kept further. Not helping him, no, but it's also times where he's missing the open passes downfield. The plays that change the game, momentum, easy passes, underthrowing. It's too much that he's missing. I believe he's overthinking a lot of things. Because if we watch Desmond Ridder, his college tape, he looked nowhere near as bad as he's looked these past 2 weeks, and really these past 4 weeks. I believe
he looked decent in the Green Bay game, but that's about it.
Yeah, that fourth quarter he looked good. That was the best he looked. But like I said, I do believe he has potential to be Taylor Heineke type quarterback, for the backup type quarterback in the league, that he could manage games, keep teams in games. But from what we've seen so far, he hasn't been that. He has 119 attempts, 74 completions, 3 fumbles, 3 picks, 3 touchdowns. And anytime you got the same amount of interceptions as touchdowns is not a good formula. And I think that, like I said, I think he's overthinking, and Arthur Smith has been having his back, and his team has been having his back. But at some point we have to start starting the dialogue about whether Taylor Heineke will be coming in or not, and what changes will be made.
Yeah, I was willing to give Ridder a shot. It made a lot of sense to at least give him a shot. So I'm not mad at it. And you knew he wasn't going to be perfect. We knew that he was going to be our plan was that he'd be a Brock Purdy. Not that he'd not lose a game, but he'd be able to use these weapons and be a game manager under a very good offensive system. And granted, Arthur Smith's offensive system hasn't looked as good as we thought so far. But we talked about this off air too. We're coming home at 2-2, and these next 2 games are at home. I definitely, Arthur was a little quick, or not very quick, I should say, to switch from Mariota last year. I think that'll be the same situation here. I don't know if he gets 12 games or whatever it was, but I do think you see a scenario where Ridder gets these 2 home games at least, Washington and Houston Sunday. And he probably, if you don't go winless in those games, which I don't think they will, I think they'll win at least one, be 3-3. He's going to get that game down in Tampa Bay. That's a division game. But if you end up
Mhm.
looking really sloppy in that one, you end up dropping two of these next three, even all three, and you're sitting here at 3-4, even 2-5. At that point, your season's over. That's 1 point. But if you're sitting here at 3-5, or excuse me, 3-4, after an in-division loss on the road to a Tampa Bay team that looks a lot better than we thought, I think that's the time you maybe pull the plug. That's 7 games, a little about the halfway point in the season, plus the 4 you saw the year before. I think at that point you've seen enough. You're 11 plus starts in. You're under 500 again. At that point, you're probably behind the Saints and the Bucks with half a season to climb. I think he's going to get at least these next 3 games. But if I'm not seeing anything, and if we lose 2 of these next 3 games, I think that's the part you pull the plug. You?
Yes. Just look at how stuck with um not going to what's worked so far. I got 2 players on both sides of the balls. Well, one player on both sides of the balls. Um, I got B. John Robinson on the offense and Jesse Bates on the defense. They are 2 additions, 2 players that we added this offseason, and they've looked amazing so far. Jesse Bates leading the league in interceptions. B. John Robinson is third in rushing yards as a rookie. He's leading this team in both receiving and rushing. B. John is literally a work, and he's looked amazing. Thing I've expected him to be. One thing I am waiting to see though is more rushing touchdowns for him. But we got for that. Hopefully, as the season progress, seeing that and might. And one thing I also look forward to is him breaking for an explosive run, get a like 50, 60 yard rushing touchdown. So those are 2 players that I've loved what I've seen from them, and that's what's working for us.
So I guess I'll just piggyback on what you said. Bijan's on pace for over 1.3 total yards, 1.3K total yards of offense this year, and double-digit touchdowns, while still splitting carries with Tyler. Like, it's probably been about 60-40 in favor of Bijan, but he's not taking all the carries. Bijan's gotten his. Cordero Patterson was active yesterday, so I was very, like, I didn't get a chance to see the full game. Did Cordero return any kick returns or anything, or was he still not part of the play yesterday? What's going on with him?
I personally did not see him. He could have, but I personally did not. I may have missed it, but I don't think he returned anything.
So, like,
Yeah,
when is he going to be a part of this offense again? Because it's been 4 weeks. He's healthy. What's
I
his
think
plan?
that
As the
I think the thing they would do with Cordero is bring him back slow, cause like last week with Jeff
well,
Okuda
he
they
is
brought
back.
him back, and he only Jeff Okuda had like he had a couple of snaps, and it wasn't much, and they trying to bring him back slow. Up in age, they probably don't want to rush him. With the rushing game being where it's at right now, they don't have to rush him to back that the and we record out there. Be the aggressive player out there because they haven't been utilizing Scotty Miller's speed and
Yeah, but you're right.
and Ritter's not connecting on the long ball. So Cordell Patterson will be big when he's back when the ball is in his hands.
And then for Jesse Bates, yeah, like we saw his impact immediately. I mean, Mikey, you and I and the audience as well from an earlier episode has all seen my genuine reaction when I saw the Falcons sign Jesse Bates. It was literally 15 seconds after I see Rappaport and Schefter say Jesse Bates to Atlanta. And I was like, no
Mhm.
flipping way. Some of it was maybe an overreaction, but us getting an all-pro safety and having cap space to go get a weakness was just all that combining within the first 15 seconds of news up here created
And he's been the
the
best in the league this season so far.
yes, he has looked everything up to my reaction so far. 2 interceptions week one, another one in Detroit the week prior. Him and AJ have been very good together. One play yesterday, I almost said last night, last morning, I guess you could say, that they weren't together on, ironically, was the Calvin Ridley touchdown. Both of them, it wasn't the Richie Grant side of the field. It wasn't the Richie Grant Akuda side of the field. It was the AJ Jesse Bates side of the field, and they did just let Calvin Ridley just kind of walk in between them on like a little curl route, just open himself up in the end zone. That can happen, but Jesse Bates has really stabilized his secondary play. It's allowed Jalen Hawkins to look better in his new role in the box a little bit, more in the nickel dime. D. Alford has been doing his thing. You haven't seen a lot of Clark Phillips yet. He's a rookie, so he's adjusting week to week. Eventually, I think he will overtake Trey Flowers, maybe even D. Alford here in the next couple weeks, and allow Trey Flowers to play what he's truly best at, and that's guarding the tight end. He was getting cooked week 2 by Jalen Reed, but it's not really his fault. Like, again, Trey Flowers should only be on the field guarding a tight end. It's what he did in Cincinnati. He always locked up Mark Andrews. He locked up Kelsey twice in the AFC Championships. That's what Trey Flowers needs to be on. And for us to do that, it means that Akuda needs to stay healthy and Clark Phillips take that next step in his progression. But yeah, like Micah, the defense looks great. The back-to-back weeks of giving up 20 points or less. The defense looks really good. The pass rush maybe could be better. I do agree on that. It's getting better week by week. Week 1, they had a really good second half versus the Panthers. But the defense looks up to par so far. One of the best Falcons defenses I've ever seen. They've held their own. Even some situations where they've been in short yardage, they've gotten stops. And they're forcing turnovers a lot more than the old Falcons defenses of the past. Yeah, you agree to that one. But, for going on what's gone wrong, I give the floor back to you.
Like we've already talked about this point with Desmond Ritter. He is, like we said, not being what I've envisioned with his passing game. Arthur Smith, he's had some moments, but I really don't have any. I don't put any blame on Arthur Smith because, like I said with Justin Fields, the coach can't go out there and play for you. Um, I think we could have won last week last game against the Jaguars if Desmond Ritter came out to play. Another thing that has gone wrong is the offensive line, the pass protection. It's been absolutely horrible. They're not helping out Desmond Ritter at all. We're Desmond Ritter at the same time.
2-1, 2-1. I don't know. Like the robots seem to be hacking your system, Mike. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going
man.
on, but what's wrong with us? But like more importantly, like I'm sure there's still more that's wrong with this team. There's awkward cuts going on. The Falcons are getting into our DNA. They're making us mess up just like they do every Sunday. Yeah, just I think you were saying something about things that were wrong with the team. Is there anything else that you left off? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would just Desmond Ritter's passing game and the pass protection on the offensive line. They're not helping him out. Like the season. It's still early. We still got time to fix things, but it's not been encouraging to see from the product that's in the game so far.
I think it's time we give a special shine to someone who does deserve it. Bijan. Regardless of what we said a couple of minutes ago, what else needs to be said about this special athlete?
I mean, he's just been literally everything that I've envisioned him to be. I would say he's the offensive rookie of the year front runner, but that guy in Los Angeles, Puka Naka, however you say his name. I'm sorry if I messed it up, but yeah, he's been amazing, and I think him and Bijan will be in a battle coming down to the end of the season. But like I said, Bijan is leading this team in rushing and receiving, and he's top 3 in rushing in the entire NFL as a rookie. He's been amazing, and he is our running back of the future along with Tyler Algier.
So, what you're saying is that Luka Doncic decided to pursue a career in a sport he's actually good at under his real name, Puka. right? Because that's that guy out in Los Angeles. It's Luka Doncic under his real name, playing a sport he's actually good at, and he's a wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams. All I know is that Jalen Carter couldn't do that, and Jalen Carter also can't, go off for a 1.3 thousand total yards and double-digit touchdowns as a rookie. But we'll fight that argument another day because eventually they'll see that both picks were right in the both picks. Like if Jalen Carter was an Eagle, or he is an Eagle. If Jalen Carter was a Falcon and Bijan Robinson was an Eagle, the Eagles would still be 4-0. The Falcons would not be 2-2 with Jalen Carter on the team. And because we are on the conversation of Bijan, I'll bring this up. Like, I got cooked on Twitter. I'm not calling it. I got cooked on Twitter last week by some of the John Collins, Jalen Carter, JC stands that say that we should have drafted Georgia players. Bijan's not so good. Look at it was right at like they were quiet until Jalen Carter made that strip fumble with the quarterback out of the pocket. I'm pretty sure it was Baker in Tampa Bay. And the thing about it, I got cooked, but I stand on my belief, and that's that the Falcons with Jalen Carter on their team, I don't think he'd be any different than Eddie Goldman, Marlon Davidson, Tack McKinley, Vic Beasley, Arnold Ebiketie to this point, and others. And you may think I'm stupid for that. That's fine. Dante Fowler, you have the right to your opinion. But I've seen the Falcons try to draft or bring in as top free agent signings of that offseason guys to pair with Grady Jarrett on the line. And none of it has ever worked. So why would Jalen Carter be any different? Just because he has a G on his head? They've spent first-round picks. They've spent second-round picks. Some of the biggest money acquisitions in the offseason, like Dante Fowler. And Dante Fowler was a pretty good player out there next to Aaron Donald on the Los Angeles Rams. Why would Jalen Carter, who had character issues, had issues studying film at UGA, had buddies he shouldn't have been hanging around and would have the chance to still hang around as an Atlanta Falcon, why would he be any different than those 6 or 7 guys I named? Because, frankly, I don't see it. He'd be sitting here with a half a sack through 4 games for us. Half a sack, 4 tackles. That's not going to do it. He's going to, of course, succeed better in the Eagle system and where he's living. But these people won't get it through their skull. I mean, you're a Georgia fan, so maybe you have a different perspective than me. Like, tell me where I'm right and where I'm wrong, like what we just talked about.
I mean, like, absolutely agree. Like, if he was in Georgia still, he would still be hanging around the same people doing the same stuff, and like that was my main thing. He needed a change of scenery because, like, if he was still here, it's no saying he wouldn't have been doing the same stuff. And like you said, the character issues. He had a bad pro day. He was gaining weight. Um, he had
He
he
went
had
to
things happening.
jail. He went to
Yes, he had, had,
jail.
had things
Like,
happening off the field, and like you brought up the point, McKinley. You brought the point with you brought those players, and like I agree, we failed trying to match and pair these other defensive players, these defensive linemen with Grady Jarrett, and why take that much of a risk on a player who has character issues, stuff happening off the field, that's hanging around the wrong people, that had a bad pro day, that was gaining weight, and risk him the Falcons trying to develop another defensive lineman that something they haven't been able to do since Grady Jarrett.
I just realized I have uneven nostrils in my camera and it has me uneasy. Sorry for that announcement. But that's where I am with Jalen Carter. I don't care. But yeah, that's the Bijan episode of the week, or segment of the week. Is there anything before we get into other fan chants or fan takes that have been awful? Is there anything regarding X's and O's that you'd like to go over in the game yesterday, positive or negative? I didn't watch the whole game. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as Ritter threw that pick six, I took my ASS back to bed. I'm not gonna cap, but I've watched every single snap of the first 3 games. Um, so yeah,
It's crazy because I set my alarm the night before, um, since it was an early game, and then I overslept and woke up. I had put my alarm PM and not AM, by the way. I always make that mistake, but yeah, I woke up.
oh,
I woke up and looked up the score. Like, no, they ain't been started. I was just and what the score was. It was second quarter, 2 minutes left. Falcons down 17-0. I was like, I'm finna go back to sleep, but I couldn't go back to sleep, so I turned the game back on, and the Falcons had finally scored with got their single on Drake London.
London and London, baby.
Like Arthur Smith said really happy with that, but if Desmond Ritter continues to just keep going down, like I said, that dialogue has to begin seeing what changes need to be made. Because at this point, the way he's playing, um, Falcons will be in the same spot they was last year if he continues to keep this up.
That's you basically watched from the point on that I didn't. And during the points I watched, like there were a couple things, like the defense in the first couple drives didn't look great. They had a chance to get off the field on a fourth down, and they don't, and it led to a Jacksonville touchdown like 2 or 3 plays later. But like granted, that is a good team, Jacksonville, and they were needing a win more in that situation than we did. They're sitting at 1-2. They came off a heartbreaker to the Texans, even worse than our loss to the Lions the previous week. When you're projected to win the division and it's your first time having a first place schedule, you can't start 1-3, even in the AFC South. And the Jaguars had to come out and handle business. And hey, props to them. They were due to beat us. I think the Falcons had won like the last 5, and the matchup, it was weird to think, oh wow, like the Falcons are playing the Jaguars. No way we lose. And maybe that's what I was thinking this offseason. I'm like, when the Falcons play the Jaguars, we always win. It's a free win. And that wasn't the case, this season. But what it means for us is the Texans, which we kind of circled as like a free win if we came back from a rough loss from London or anything. Like we're coming home, no bye from London, but we got the Houston Texans circled. The Texans are a 2-2 football team right now. They've won their last 2 big in Jacksonville, with Houston having a CVS receipt of injuries. They go in and beat their division rival by like 25 on the road. And then they go out, and I know Kenny Pickett got hurt, but before he got hurt, they were still handling the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So going into this Sunday, which I guess we can kind of preview it a little bit, the Falcons cannot sleep on Houston. Right now we have our own issues, and they're playing some of the best football that Houston's played since Deshaun Watson was in town. And I'm not talking 2020 Deshaun Watson. I'm talking pre-COVID Texan Deshaun Watson. And C.J. Stroud is starting to figure things out. We knew that C.J. Stroud would look more confident in Week 5 than Bryce Young would in Week 1. We said that in our preseason predictions. But the Falcons cannot lose this game. You don't want to fall back under 500 with I guess you could say, better Washington team and a road game in the division with Tampa, coming up afterwards. They have to come out and win this game, and they can't sleep on anybody. Will Anderson will probably give Caleb McGarry some problems. He will. Caleb McGarry has not really had an easy testament all year. His easiest testament might have been Sunday against former number 1 overall pick Trayvon Walker. But he started the year facing Brian Burns, Rashawn Gary, Aiden Hutchinson. And now he's going to face Will Anderson, who is a rookie. But Caleb McGarry is having some more issues in pass protection, which was his weakness before getting the extension, which is only 2 years. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. You just have to come out and handle business. And I don't know what the X's and O's look like because, first of all, Ritter has to be completely better, and that's a whole different conversation we've already had 3 times in this podcast. But, I don't want to beat the same dead horse of, like, get the ball to Kyle and Drake. Like, I'm sure Arthur's not trying to not get them the ball. If that was the case, these guys would be unhappy. They're not. Like, that's clearly not the game plan, but these guys also want to win. And if them sacrificing a little bit of their stats for being on a winning football team for the first time in their career is a thing they have to do, I'm sure they'll be fine with it. But the defense just has to come out and do its thing again. You do that, you do what you did the last 2 weeks, and give me 4 sacks. There's no way the Falcons lose this game at home. Because you also got to think Ritter's been a much better player at home since high school. There's a chance Ritter comes out and plays better on Sunday. Not saying he'll play great, but better being he's at home. And the defense can do what it did the last 2 weeks against a rookie quarterback, add some pass rush into it, and I think that'll get the Falcons the win and get them back over 500 and stay there. Because we don't want to fall right back under. We just got over for the first time in 5.5 years. But like that's my game plan going into the Sunday, trying to bring a different perspective than what most people say. You can go back to the generic conversation if you want, but like, what would your game plan have to be? Because I wouldn't say this is a must-win game, but I would like to stay over 500 against a worse team. You?
You say you I will say you don't have it as a must win, but me personally, I would say this is a must win. Given
Pretty close.
yeah, given what the Texans have been, and with them coming in with a rookie quarterback, um, I said before the season, I love the draft trade they made, getting C.J. Stroud and coming back up and getting Will Anderson. The Texans are going in the right direction. I'm liking what they're doing. And C.J. Stroud has been playing amazing. He's been outplaying Desmond Ritter by a lot. He's been outplaying Bryce Young. He's been looking like a good quarterback. At 1,012 yards right now, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's been playing pretty good, and it will be a challenge for our secondary, but I think it's a challenge that they'll be able to come out victorious, and like Will Anderson will give some problem. It's just our defense is able to hold there and where I think this Texans.
See, you brought up the CJ Stroud stats, which are better than I thought. So before, I just want to pump the brakes on this real quick. For the Falcons fans to say we should have taken CJ Stroud. The Falcons weren't picking second. They weren't picking third. So there was no world where CJ Stroud was even possible for us to get. Because even if the Falcons wanted him, he was off the board. And I think I said this in the draft. I said, if CJ is still there at number 8, maybe you take him, but I also wouldn't be mad if it was Bijan or Jalen Carter. You and I talked all offseason. Like we talked ourselves into a lot of picks. And we were like, okay, CJ at number 8 could be one of them. But regarding the must-win thing, it's not that we think the Falcons are still a bad team because we've preached all offseason how things have changed, that we bought into a lot of things they did, the draft and the guys that brought back and the guys they did get, the plans that they have going forward and what Terry and Arthur has spoken out on, even giving Ritter a chance. We bought into all these things. But I think game to game wise, you and I and a lot of Falcons fans are still going through figuring out how much we can trust the Falcons. Because as much as the new things are, you're still having to see it and not just look at it on paper. And they look decent in the preseason. Training camp was great. They start out 2-0, and we're hitting that first road hump. And we're coming back home. The old Falcons teams go lay an egg on Sunday. And so we're week to week, you and I think the entire fan base would mostly agree, we're trying to figure out how much we trust these new look Falcons and how if they're different than the old Falcons teams of the past. And so that's where I think the part of it's a must-win game, because if we lose this game, we're right back in the situation of the old Atlanta Falcons. Oh, we're 2-3, lost another game at home. We've lost 3 in a row. Quarterback looks awful. Still can't pass rush. It sounds exactly the same thing. And that's where you get the world of the trolls saying, trade Kyle Pitts, fire Arthur Smith. Terry's a dumb ASS and all that. And I'm trying to avoid that. And I want to enjoy a good team. And regardless of who's out there, the NFL is not college. Anybody can beat you. College, You see it happen sometimes. Appalachian State has an upset at once a decade. But college, anybody can beat anybody. Did you think for a second that Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals had a chance to beat the Cowboys a week and a half ago?
Not at all.
Nobody did. And they go out and they didn't just beat them, they beat the crap out of them. So we have to keep that same energy when it comes to our games too. As much as we think it's a cakewalk schedule, the schedule looks a lot harder than it did preseason. It does. And last offseason we talked about how hard our schedule was the year before going into it, and then the season schedule ended up being a lot easier than we thought. So you just never know, because you got to play
Yeah.
the games, and being on paper is just not how it is. But is there anything else you'd like to add regarding the preview of the game before we get into our worst takes of the week? I guess you could say.
I believe we covered it all for this game.
So you heard me mention these a second ago. We'll talk about these two in specific. We'll start off with the Kyle Pitts one. Yeah, how idiotic are these fans?
Um, the pat really since the season started, have been pushing for Kyle Pitts to be traded. Atlanta fans, teams, fans of teams outside of media outlets, all around, everyone's pushing for a Kyle Pitts trade.
Fantasy football sweats.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you, Arthur Smith does not fantasy football team. Don't know how many times it has to be said, but he doesn't care. We're playing to win. We're not playing for y'all to win y'all's fantasy game. That's why I didn't draft him. But anyways, yeah, Kyle Pitts, he's still recovering from his ACL, MCL, whatever, whichever one it was, his injury, and you could see that in some of his routes, he's running full speed, and he starts looking a little limpy, giddy. And you can see he slows down sometimes, and I don't think he's at 100% right now. And what's also it's not helping his quarterback. His quarterback is overthrowing him, underthrowing him, not get having the ball on target. He's targeted him 21 times, but he has 11 receptions. He has one drop, but he's at 121 yards on the season. I think Kyle, the plays are for him. It's just the quarterback has to get the ball, and but like I said, we're not trading Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a part of this team, and could continue whining, crying about y'all's fantasy points and him not getting the ball, because y'all want to win fantasy. That's not Arthur Smith or Falcons' goal. Falcons' goal is to win games at the end of the day.
I do well. Do yeah, that's professional, Blake. I do think that was a good recovery there, right? I do think there is a difference between not playing fantasy football and also targeting Kyle Pitts more, because I do think like we could get him involved more. And it just seems like with
Hmm.
Desmond Ritter, it's impossible to have Kyle Pitts and Drake London involved simultaneously in the same game,
Hmm.
especially with the line kind of not being as great in pass pro this year. Um, so I do understand like us using him more, but like we said it all offseason. Like he only played half the season last year. He didn't end up scoring like 3 touchdowns with Mariota as his quarterback. The first year goes to Matt Ryan. Only got 1 touchdown, sure, but had almost 1.2 thousand yards. Broke some rookie tight end records. But regarding you know his usage, like the stats could be better. 122 yards through 4 games. That's something you'd like to see through 2 games with him.
Hmm.
But the targets are there. As you said, he's getting targeted on average of over 5 times a game. And that's not a bad place to live. You'd like it to be a little more, sure, but it's a step in the right direction. And, for the people that say, oh, well, Kyle Pitts half ASS is his routes. He doesn't try on routes. He wants out. And Drake London will want the same way too. We saw it with Julio. Nonsense. Because as you just said, he's literally recovering from an MCL. So, of course, on balls that are uncatchable, he's not going to run for no reason, people. He's not. I'm sorry. And it comes from the same camp of people that say drafting a tight end at number 4 is stupid, but they clamor about the Falcons needing to draft the next Bulldog, Brock Bowers. because Brock Bowers is a damn good dog and he doesn't take off routes like that guy from Florida does. I'm sorry. I'm a little fired up over it because it's a cross between my two loves. But just people. I just don't understand this fan base, man. Like, sure, we could use Kyle Pitts a little bit more. He could have more production. But, there's 22 people on a football field at the same time. Not everything is going to go your way. And for the fantasy football owners, boo-hoo. Like, I drafted him the last 2 years. I think I had him last year, and I played Hawkinson over him. I did. But I don't care for the fantasy football folks. I do understand maybe a reason to at least use him more. But the targets are there. He's recovering from an injury. There's a reason he's not 100% on every play. People just have to use this thinking cap of here or there's every once in a while, and maybe things will start to click together a little bit more. That's just me. But, people hate Arthur Smith so much. They also, for some reason, want to fire Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I do, like you said, I don't understand this fan base. I don't, I don't know what to think of. Like the things they say is just it don't make sense. Arthur Smith has been a great coach. He's one of the best offensive minds in the league. Um, one of I would say the one like top two with him and Kyle Shanahan of um of a play calling, run game, run schemes, all that. Arthur Smith is not at all a bad coach. He's been great for us, and um, if we would have, like I told before, if we would have had Matt Ryan, years of this year, where this team would be right now, like y'all get that over what Desmond not knowing Archer Smith is literally scheming these guys open, having plays where B. John Robinson can get out into the open field. But teams are coming down because they don't fear Desmond Ridder ball. And if we had Kyler Murray, the field would be so much more open because teams are coming down and they're not fearing Desmond Ridder's deep ball, and he's giving them a reason to not.
Yeah, it's just with this fan base, we haven't won in so long, really a lot in history, and a lot of these same people are Georgia fans who have seen a lot of domination the last couple of years. These are where these takes come from. And I'll say this, like Arthur Smith's play calling hasn't been perfect up to this point. I think he's gotten a little cute in moments, but he's had to do what he's had to do regarding, having to use Desmond Ridder, seeing the regression in the pass pro, bringing back Cordero Patterson slowly, and he's a big part of this offense. I think some of it also comes back to Dave Ragoni. You don't really hear a lot about him whenever you hear offensive coordinator. You really think it's Arthur Smith calling the shots. Dave Ragoni, I'm sure, has part of it, and maybe them are not. They're not on the same page. And regarding the QB development itself, like as you said, TJ Yates is now our wide receiver coach, moved from quarterback coach. I do think this offseason the Falcons go get another quarterback coach. That's a different mind talking to the quarterback, whether it's Desmond Ridder or not. In the same room with Taylor and Desmond and whoever we end up adding. As of right now, of course, Logan Woodside, can't disrespect the GOAT. But those are things that can change. But to fire Arthur Smith is just blasphemy, guys. Like, he's not the guy yet, but he definitely has the highest chance to be the guy. He is a much better coach than Dan Quinn. That's already proven. As of right now, through the first 2 years and change, looks like a much better coach than Mike Smith. And Mike Smith did a lot of winning in this organization. The wheels kind of came off at the end. I think they fired him a little prematurely, but he looks like a much better coach than Mike Smith. Then you're getting into the conversation of Jim Mora. And Jim Mora was a quitter who decided he wanted to go to college. You got Bobby Petrino, same thing. Like, guys, I don't think you realize how good the Falcons are set up right now. We are in the best situation as a franchise we've been in 6 or 7 years. There's some negatives that we've gone through in these 2-game losing streak. But, Micah and I are trying to remind you guys of everything that's set up differently this time than the old Falcons. And sometimes you have to keep that in mind. And I hate to break it to you guys, they're not, even if the Falcons miss the playoffs this year and barely miss the playoffs at that, they're not firing Arthur Smith. Now, if we end up having a bad season this year and then we still don't make the playoffs next year, then you have the conversation. But as of right now, he's squeezed 16 wins, 14 in the first 2 years with 3-win rosters. He made lemonade out of spoiled lemons. And same thing with Dean Pease for that matter. And now, we're seeing Nielsen having to transfer some of the Pease type players into his system. And so, for the people that say we need to trade this player, cut that player, fire this guy, pump the brakes a little bit, guys. You have to stay calm. We're in the best situation we've been in 6 or 7 years. Mike, if there's anything you want to add on, things I've missed, what else do the viewers have to keep themselves calm about?
I mean, like you said, Arthur Smith is nowhere near the hot seat this year.
No.
Um, like you said, he squeezed out those wins last since he's been here with rosters that should not have won that many games, and he has not been a bad. He's been great for us, and yeah, the Falcons have money to spend next year. A lot of money to still spend, and like Blake said, the difference between the previous years and how we've been set up it's a drastic difference going from Dimitrov and DQ to Fontenot and Arthur Smith. Like Terry he's been good lately. He's not overpaying. He had a questionable extension with McGarry, but he didn't give him too many years to where we can't get rid of him. And he didn't give him too much money, and he went out and got Jesse Bates. He went out and got David Onyemata, Bud Dupree, Caden Ellis, Calais Campbell.
I haven't seen
Um,
a lot from Bud Dupree yet. Not gonna lie, I would like to see Arnold start getting his snaps. That is one I'm like, a little on. But yeah, continue.
yeah. Like I said, like Terry is not gonna go out there and overspend. He's gonna make the necessary moves and necessary adjustments, additions that we need for this team. And um hopefully soon Falcons fans will realize what the Falcons are building and cooking up right now.
And like you talked about how good Terry's been in for agency. Like even talk about some of the depth guys he's found the last couple of years with the little money we had. Cordero Patterson, Lorenzo Carter. Names are ironically slipping my mind as of this time. But we even had a couple guys the last couple of years who they signed with the little money they had. Bradley Pinion is one of them that have made impacts, which took this team from 3 wins to 7 wins the last 2 years. And so you guys have to, don't don't fire your gears up just yet. Pump the brakes. Even if this team ends up only winning like 8 or 9 games, that would be a little bit of a disappointment, but nobody's on the hot seat. If they do this again next year, I think we have a better conversation because we're probably still about a half year ahead of schedule. It's just where the division and the conference is set up where we have a chance to compete already a year ahead of time. Like if the Falcons end up winning 10 games and winning a playoff game, that's amazing to me. I don't want us to see us go too far because Micah, as fans of the Hawks, we made the same situation where the Hawks' first year of window competing, they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they've come all the way back down to the play-in level, and they have not sniffed any of what they did. Every player on that team has not improved. And that's a scary situation the Falcons can be in because if you talk about the one thing I will agree to people with is let's say these high picks, these first and second round picks we've had don't turn out to what they were supposed to be. That's Kyle Pitts, that's Drake London, that's Bijan Robinson, that's Richie Grant, that's AJ Terrell, that's Arnold Ebiketie, and so on. If these guys don't end up all being part of the core, you could see a similar situation to the Hawks. We're like, oh yeah, we picked high, but the picks didn't work out. And we went too far year one, let's say the NFC Championship somehow, and we peaked because it's hard to make an NFC Championship the next year, say we made the divisional, and then whoops, like we didn't really improve. So I'd like to see more of a steady progression of like win the division, host a game, win a game, go on from there. That's where I am as of this point. I just like that's the only comparison I can see because some people say the Falcons didn't tank correctly. Like you need to go down per se to come up. And I like to point these people to what the Hawks did. The Hawks went down, way down. They were a top 5, top 4 team in the East for a decade. They went way down. purposely, and they came up, and they're worse than what they were 4 years ago. After 1 year, I hope the 1 year was worth it. So that's where I have to remind these people, like the Falcons are in a much better situation than they have been in 6 or 7 years, and you just have to remind yourself of that sometimes. Regarding my record predictions, I don't think a lot's changed as of so far. I still have them, I think, at 10-7. Some of the games that I didn't think we'd win preseason, like the Jets, like the Vikings, look a lot more winnable now than they did. But simultaneously, it means we could lose another game we're not expecting to. Like I didn't think we'd lose to the Jaguars. But we can end up losing to the Texans or not end up sweeping Tampa Bay like we thought. But like regarding our as of now schedule, sure, we got to win 2 of the next 3. Try to split these home games. Go to 3-3. You'd like to win them both, but if that's the case, you win them both. There's no way Ritter gets benched for a long time, regardless of his play. He could have awful games, us be 4-2, and he's not going to get benched for a while because Arthur Smith and Terry are going to see that record in their head. So I think in our best case scenario, you'd like to split, probably win the first one, and if you end up dropping it to Washington and Howell, who's in another similar situation as Ritter, maybe it begs the question going into Tampa, where it's another must-win game. You drop that game on the road in the division where they are currently ahead of us in the standings. The Falcons are second place with the tiebreaker over New Orleans. Carolina's winless. Don't really have to worry about them, especially if they lose this Sunday. They're done. Done at 0-5. But you got to win 2 of these next 3. Probably split the home games and try to find a way to win Tampa because you got to find a way to have success while also finding a way to end the Desmond Ritter experience before it gets too late in the season. Do you have any final thoughts on the show or this topic in general? Let me know.
Just going back to that Panthers though, they're playing this bad and they made that trade, and the Bears do have their first round pick this year, and
They have the
Bears are
first and
also
the
playing
second pick
bad.
right now. They have the top
Yep.
2 picks in the draft.
The Panthers, they need to tighten up. You don't trade up for a quarterback and get number 1, then end up getting the first pick that you traded. Yeah, I believe we covered everything. And this is just an example of how our shows will be from now on, doing specials for each team. Like Blake said, the Falcons will be Monday, Tuesday. We try to get the Hawks. Thursday, the Braves and the Braves Hawks. Whatever
We'll
at the
alternate.
time is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thursdays, Fridays.
Maybe we'll
But
do like the Braves every other week during the off season, and then we'll do the
yeah.
Hawks every other week during their off season. So, like for example, we'll do a Hawks show every week during the winter, but every other week we'll put Braves coverage in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll try to find a way to incorporate Georgia/Georgia Tech into these shows. Maybe if we get crazy enough time, like over your winter break, Micah, if I'm not working a lot, we can find enough time to do 3 shows in a week, so that way we can cover Braves Hawks in one, Falcons in the other, and then we can cover Georgia Tech, Atlanta United, the Dream. But it's a work in progress, guys. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just what Blake said. I hope y'all like this format. We're trying to make it easier for the viewers, where y'all don't have to skim through a video to find a topic that y'all want to talk about. It's people that are Falcons fans but not Braves fans, and it's Braves fans that aren't Hawks fans, and they just want to hear what they hear about their favorite team and not have to hear about other stuff that they don't care about. So that's the idea behind this type of format, and we hope y'all enjoy it.
It also gives us a way to shorten these episodes over time and be more consistent, because you and I were doing a show every 2.5 weeks, and we wouldn't want to miss anything over those 2.5 week periods. We'd have 3 people on a show. Us splitting our thoughts adds more time. And I understand that you guys don't want to watch a 2.5 hour episode. You'd rather watch a movie. You'd rather go run a marathon, pretty much anything over that. Find shorter form podcasts that are more professional, like Locked On, like, anything of that sort, 92.9 The Game. But we appreciate you guys for giving us these 75 minutes of your time. We'll get shorter as we go. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Maybe you guys like the longer form. We'll find out. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to any platform, whether it's a TikTok that Mike has made, whether it's uploaded to something on my page or the corporate page around the A, whether it's on Micah's YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. We'll probably go audio form eventually. So if these episodes are a little harder for you guys to view, I don't know a set time we'll start going audio only. Maybe around the holidays, Micah, we can start figuring out how we want to maybe we'll be more consistent by then, and we can start downloading these episodes for audio use as well on Apple Play, Spotify, etc. But yeah, guys, we really appreciate the support. I know a lot of us that are watching are mostly our close friends and family right now, and they're really rooting for us. So we love you guys, and yeah, we hope to see you guys in a couple days for Braves playoffs, and then we'll probably start the
Yeah,
Hawks.
fifth.
Yeah, let's do what the '90s Braves couldn't and win that second ring in an era. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. We'll try to bring Dylan on the show, I think, and try to bring in some UGA talk. Also, hopefully he settled in college by now. But yeah, Micah, any final thoughts on the audience tonight, or the Falcons' future?
I believe we covered everything. But we do want to hear y'all's feedback. What y'all like about it? Do y'all want the show shorter? Do y'all want it's a
Light up
time
the comment
the
section.
length
Light them up.
good? Yeah. Do you like this type of format? Like, give us feedback. We want to know. We want to make it to where y'all actually want to watch the entire show and enjoy what y'all are watching and listening to.
So yeah, we appreciate it, and I'm not going to get this to a minute 16. So you guys enjoy the rest of your night. I did. Whoops. But you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Peace out.